Happy, great to have you.
Good to have you.
Okay, so congratulations for the newly launched mini IPO on Sydney West. So I was curious about why you chose this platform to launch your new round of funding instead of typical venture funding.
Absolutely. So what's really interesting in Silicon Valley, there's $50 to $75 billion a year that goes out into disrupting every possible industry. But changing the fundraising process hasn't changed since 1933, and the Securities and Exchange Commission passed all kinds of regulatory frameworks for entrepreneurs to be able to raise capital. Now with the change in the Jobs Act, young private companies can actually do a public offering, and you can actually go to seedinvest.com/Knightscope. Seedinvest is our broker dealer, and you're able to raise capital publicly from not just 98% of the population that was not allowed to invest prior, but the entire, not only US, but the entire globe, allowing us to raise some very interesting capital. We're raising up to $20 million online.
Okay, great. I hear, so Knightscope was one of the very first robotic companies that actually deployed the real robot to the field. How's your deployment looks like this year and next year?
So what we're developing at Knightscope are autonomous security robots that patrol in a self-driving manner, 24/7, indoors and outdoors. And I like to say, building a demo is very easy. Building a prototype is very easy. You want machines operating in the field 24/7 across a bunch of different regions and being able to do their jobs effectively and have a client pay you for it is a whole other level of engineering. Unfortunately, we've been operating in that manner for a couple of years now. All across the state of California, and we just signed contracts in Massachusetts, New York, Florida, and Texas, and we're starting to scale nationwide. So we've operated, let's see, over 100,000 hours, traveled over 50,000 miles, and we have some great field experience that gives us a great competitive advantage.
Got it. So AI is getting really hot last 12 months. It was not that hot when you started the company.
Yeah. So,
and also many other robotic companies were invested the last couple of years after Knightscope was founded. I was curious to understand that what do you see the relationship between Knightscope with AI and also other type of robots?
There are a lot of robots. We view ourselves as an advanced physical security company. So whatever technology is going to help us solve our client's problem, and the problem we're solving is enormous. Crime has $1 trillion negative economic impact on the US every single year, and our long-term goal is to literally cut it in half. And for us to be able to do that, we can't rely on trends. We can't rely on what the latest ongoings are in Silicon Valley or elsewhere. We need to really focus on the needs and the problems that our clients have. So if the technology is around autonomous, it's around sensors, it's around machine learning, deep learning, artificial intelligence, whatever you want to call it, around big data, which was huge when we started. That's all nice and interesting, but we need to focus on putting together executable plans for solving our clients' problems and frankly, ignore the trends.
Okay, awesome. How about the other maybe relevant questions that many of anonymous car company also get funded as well. Do you think maybe those, your technology in some way can be integrated or some way together with one of the car solutions?
So as an ex-Ford Motor Company executive, I spent a lot of time in Detroit. I think self-driving technology, autonomous technology is going to turn the world completely upside down. I think the very interesting thing for Knightscope is we have a very unique path to commercialize that technology well ahead of any of the larger players. We're the only company in the world have scaled autonomous technology in the real world with real clients operating 24/7. All these other efforts are good and interesting, but frankly R&D efforts and have yet to ship something. So it's interesting, the valuations is certainly gone a little bit crazy. You're in the 300 million to $1.5 billion for technologies that have yet to be commercialized, and we believe that we have a first mover advantage in that regard as well. And we have a K3 that's the smaller indoor robot, the K5 that's outdoors. We have a K7, a four-wheel one that's coming out at the end of the year. And I'll just say there are a lot of numbers above 7. And I'll leave that to your imagination.
Okay. I agree. In short term, those robots, automatic drive car is not ready yet. But what about in few years? When do you think they will be ready?
5, 10, 15 years, it's going to take a good amount of time. There's at least 4 things that need to happen. One is on the technology side. There's still a lot of work to be done. Having an autonomous vehicle not be able to operate a good percentage of the time and have a human take over, you still have a lot of work to do. We can't do that. Our machines are running 24/7. We don't have a human intervening every few minutes. So the technology still needs some work. But there's paths to get that all completed. I have great confidence in some awesome companies working on the technology. Second, you need a regulatory framework. I love my country. The government is not necessarily the most competent in putting a regulatory framework for a 2,000 to 4,000 pound vehicle to operate in unmanned capacity on a public road. So that's going to take some time. There is not an insurance framework. Other than your dog is autonomous and you own your dog, like that's the extent of the insurance framework that exists today. And lastly, our country is extremely litigious. We have the most number of lawsuits around the world, and there's also not a legal framework. There's a lot of risks that still have not been addressed, and why I believe it's going to take a long time. Because Knightscope operates less than 25 miles an hour on private roads, we don't have to wait for all these things to be sorted out so we can operate actually live today. We've actually signed, we announced that we've signed over $1 million worth of contracts just recently.
Okay. So where do you see the biggest potential client groups come from for Knightscope in the next few years?
Oh, where are clients? Corporate campuses, malls, utility companies, distribution warehouse, oil, gas, stadiums. One of our clients is a movie studio. Anywhere indoors or outdoors you might see a private security guard, it's fair game. There are 1 million private security guards just in the US, and about 1 million law enforcement professionals. The market is quite significant for us. I think long term we're going to be able to build a $30 billion a year company with a portfolio of autonomous products.
$30 billion, that's an amazing number. How do we get there?
How do we get there? Well, first the math is, if you add up all 200 countries around the world, 500 billion gets spent on security both in the public and private space. If you look at it over the long term, do we have a commercially reasonable chance to address probably the 300 billion that's addressable by our plans and aspirations? Probably taking 10% of that is not an unreasonable target.
I really hope you can make it since we are investors.
And we appreciate that.
And what drive you to dive yourself into this Knightscope company?
So 95% of startups fail. 95% of startups fail. 80% never make it to their 3rd anniversary. We actually celebrated our 4th anniversary this week.
Wow, congratulations.
Thank you very much. And so what's driving me from a professional standpoint, I think autonomous technology is really going to change the world. And so that's on the more personal side. I was born in New York City. Someone hit my town on 9/11. I'm still really, really upset about it, and I'm dedicating the rest of my life to better securing our country. I think the nation's tired of getting up every morning. I don't believe the founders of our country ever expected one to go to have a risk of getting shot or killed by going to work, going to school, going to the movie theater, or going to the mall. And I think it's high time we actually do something about this, regardless of political representation. Both sides of the aisle, both presidential administrations have been unable to address this very, very difficult problem, and we actually have a solution, and we've actually been fighting crime successfully. We've had our first law enforcement agency that we've helped issue an arrest warrant. We had someone actually arrested. We stopped a fraudulent insurance claim, and the list goes on and on and on. The technology is actually working in the field.
Okay, sounds great, and I wish you great luck with Knightscope. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it.